All right. Well, welcome back for episode 2 of Lion's Life. Cameron Day with Mark Shives again. Before we get started on this episode, I just wanted to go ahead and thank everybody for all the support in episode 1. Obviously, last year we did the foundation as like Cannon's birthday thing. This year was the podcast, and we knew being Cannon's birthday we'd get some support or whatever, but the support was beyond believable, amazing. I think at one point on the Instagram it was up to like 12,000 views, probably more now. So I just wanted to thank everybody who listens and watched and gave your input, shared it, and everything. Grateful is you can't really describe that. We didn't think it'd really blow up the way it did at all. But going off that, before we get into this episode, we wanted to announce since there is so much love on the first episode, we've decided to do our first ever giveaway. Giveaway is going to include a basket with a $100 Amazon gift card, shirts, Cannon's challenge coin, Being Lion bracelet, a stuffed lion, and maybe a few other things. I'll say this again at the end, but to be entered in the giveaway, you must be a subscriber to the YouTube channel, like the video, and be a follower to the Facebook or Instagram page, which is at Be a Lion Foundation. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be right in front of you on the screen below. Going off that, though, if you just wanted to add anything, obviously we got a lot of support.
That was shocking to me, but as you know, I'm not real savvy in the tech world, so I don't know what all the following means and this and that, but I could tell you were excited with it, and it's here we are doing a second one. That
Yeah.
kind of wasn't always with the plan and things like that, but yeah, I mean, thankful to people, thankful to the response. It was nice that just to connect, and sometimes I think just hearing the name or hearing Cannon's name or somebody, I got a little story that I wasn't told, a couple pictures, you know, just things that help healing. And at the same time, Coach Price used to always say, as long as you're talking about them, they're not past, in a different sense. And I kind of saw that this week.
Yeah, and going off, obviously, like we've been doing stuff for his birthday to kind of keep his legacy going, and obviously we still see it's going and growing
Yeah.
as it's been going on with the
Mhm.
foundation and everything. But I mean, I had people reaching out from I haven't talked to since middle school, saying it helped them with what they're going through, and I know we just were focused on maybe if we connected to like 5 to 10 lives, we were
Yeah.
going to be happy with it. But the support, the messages are amazing, and go ahead in the comments of the video, go ahead, leave any recommendations, what you guys want to see. We're glad to take the feedback and go ahead and make these podcasts better as we're obviously not experts. We're still learning through everything. But getting into episode 2, we're going to start with how people can relate to honesty and connect their journey to life. Obviously, whenever it blew up, like we said, we kind of took a step back and didn't realize how impactful that really was. And so asking you, kind of with the journey in life, like how being honest really just is relating to it and just being open to it as we kind of opened up to the world.
Well, I think that honesty runs a fine line. People want honesty at some point. I know I've had people say, if you want your kid evaluated or you want somebody to explain something to you, he's going to be a straight shooter. And I think sometimes that you desire that.
Yeah.
Even if it stings a little bit in the front, in the back, I think it comes like a full circle. I know you probably can relate to that a little better than a lot. I know you were probably in the seventh or eighth grade, and your mom and dad wanted an evaluation,
Yeah.
and I was honest, and I said at the time you were not a high end travel player,
Yeah.
and you needed to put on weight, and you needed to do some other things, and I even told him to not travel, which probably you were pissed about because every kid thinks if he's on a travel team, he's going to college. Every kid thinks if he's has a different uniform on in his high school in the summer, he's going to college, and that's not how it always works. But I think sometimes honesty is appreciated, whether at the moment it is or in the long run. I think we all want it. We all get and it was nice to hear the honesty from other people this week about things you and I said and things you and I related to that maybe that you know grief and death is not something that you talk to at the coffee shop. It's not something that you bring up at a lunch table or your coworker. It's something that has to be attached to something for you to even want to discuss it.
Yeah. And going off what you said, obviously, like before I came to you, the big notion on you, because you're a straight shooter, is you're a straight up dickhead. Everybody
Right.
thinks so.
Still am.
It,
If you're good at
and
something, I'm a big believer you stick to it.
yeah, and so like give or take, you can say that, but like I had a friend that told me once, you're like, yeah, he seems like a dickhead, whatever, but he just tells the kids or gives you the guidance that others won't, because a lot of instructors want to keep you around for money as well and everything. So I feel like that's kind of where you separate in that, but it also gets mistaken with other people with like obviously jealousy factors and everything that
Well,
runs into it.
also, I think when kids are going to try to pick a school, you tell them, hey, take visits, learn to coach, because what what you might like is not what you might get. Talk to a kid, ask him, hey, what's he really like when he's not recruiting me? Or what's he like in the locker room? What's he like at practice? What's he like if you screw up? You know, and that's with everything. We relate to certain people. The thing we've always said here is, and a lot of times, if you don't like it, you don't have to be here. If
Yeah.
you don't like something, like, you know, Megan and I hunted a church. It takes a while. If you don't like it, nobody's making you stay at something. And that, to have an opinion on somebody because you don't like the way they present something, that's why everybody has opinions. But at the end of the day, you're only relating. Like you and I said, we did this. If we connected to 3 or 4 people, it was great. It's no different in the coaching world. It's no same way in the education world. I team teach with a guy. We have 2 different deliveries, and hopefully you touch. But not every student's going to like every teacher. Not every person's going to like every coach. But I think if you're honest and you hold a line to it, no, then I think no matter what, there's the opinion can be there, but not. You just can't assume something. You got to really try it out and test it and drive it.
Yeah, and going off that, obviously, it was on the back of the high school team shirts, and it's kind of been your saying in the barn. With baseball, it was before Cannon's passing, was stay the course. If you want to go ahead and say like what stay the course kind of means to somebody that doesn't really know that.
Well, I don't think a lot of stay the course is something you hear people say. It's not something I originated, but um, I was a skinny kid, very small. I think in high school, my freshman year, I pushed around 100 pounds to 110. And I can remember my dad saying, "Give it time," And then as I got older, it's I tell a lot of smaller kids and skinny kids in here and anybody, the tortoise and the hare. We all know that story. We heard it growing up. And with Cannon, he would get in the car and disgusted. The one thing funny with Cannon was he would bat 10th, 11th, or 12th on our travel team. Usually 10th, usually 11th or 12th when he was younger. And he'd get in the car and he'd complain about, why am I not hitting 5th? Why am I not hitting 6th? Why am I not? And I started saying, stay your course. It's what you're doing at 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 is not going to reflect to who you are at, especially in the world of sport where a 12-year-old with hair under his armpits and a mustache obviously is going to be a lot stronger and powerful, more powerful than a kid that, using Cannon, blonde hair, blue eyed, not a blade of body hair on him. And I've been in the business a long time to understand it's a process, and you got to stay the course with it. And it became something that after Cannon, the last thing before I go to the next is when Cannon was in high school. I remember he was batting 5th. That state championship team was loaded, and he gets the last out. And I remember he comes off, and we had a moment there, and that moment was shared with, like, hey, you're not done. There's still a lot in your way before you've stayed your course.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. And then as when Cannon passed,
I feel it transpired to kind of like a life saying
yeah,
or life
like
meaning.
a thing to people. I remember kids were coming up at the thing they did over at the high school, and they were like, they were looking for something, And at that time, I didn't have nothing. I was broke, but I remember saying, "Hey, man, just stay your course. We're all going to stay our course." And then I gave a speech in the eulogy or to the public, and I wanted people to know that as a town, yes, we're hit, yes, we're broke, but we will stay our course, and and I think stay the course can be many different things. Stay the course. I struggled when Cannon passed with my faith, and I kept telling myself, and stay the course has been ever hell. I got it. The first thing I did was I needed something to keep me moving. You have dark days after a child's death. There was days I didn't want to get up. There was days I just didn't want to be on the earth at that time. I went into the guy that was tattoo. I said I would like you to tattoo stay the course on my wrist, and I wanted to use Cannon's ashes, and that's what I did. And it's a reminder to me that I get in the truck in the morning, I go to work, I I kind of look at it. If 11 hits on my clock, people probably think I'm nuts or I'm Tarzan, but it's my way of keeping it, and it's helped me in my faith. I think we're inspiring people.
Yeah.
People are inspiring us. I got a couple friends right now that are going through cancer, and they've inspired me. That I sent them a note, man. Hey, man, stay the course, and they write you back. Like Justin Salome's wife. She's inspirational to me.
Yeah.
And she's somebody that she's got a smile on her face. She shows up to work. Billy Johnson's got a kid in here, and he's a 2-time survivor of cancer. And it's all that. So I sent him a text. Hey, man, stay the course. And he fires it back to me. I need it. He needs it. It's just something that's become a little bit of an underground war cry for our area or the community. And if and hopefully somebody else hears and is like, damn right. That's what they put me on this earth for, and I'm going to stay mine until mine's ran its course.
Yeah, and it's funny you say, like, obviously, like, whenever we see 11s on the clock, 11 on anything, we always say something. But even I notice, like, at work, when you have to go get a shoe from 11, I'll be like, I'll say hi to Ken and
Yeah,
whatever.
just something, and those are little things that, and I'm sure everybody has their own little innuendos that they do, and it kind of processes it, but they're ours, and I know I see 11 on a lot of people. Had a kid this week, you got a tattoo for his 18th birthday, and it was a lion and a cross on his thing, and I just wrote back, fist bump, lion, and stay the course, thinking about you if you need anything. Just things like that is kind of what it meant to me, but it originated from Cannon being aggravated to the point of, and I think if you listened in the eulogy, one of them said, stayed the course.
Yeah.
I think Justin was like, we know you, kind of stayed the course. And, I think let everybody hear that, because we all struggle as we get up in the day. I know everybody struggles. It's just, if your course is to get through the morning, if your course is to get through the day, if your course is to get through the next month, the week, whatever it is, and there's people there to help you. I need help to stay on mine, and I know you need help to stay on yours. I think it's something that our community is rallied around of. I know the baseball team wore it the following year that they won the state championship, and they stayed the course, through a lot of turmoil and shit like that. But, I was proud of them, and I was proud when they put that on the back of their shirt.
Yeah, and going off that, obviously, like you said, you gave the speech and then everything, but we came back home and I had to go back to school, but there was people like bringing gifts, food, being like just very, very kind and everything for about a month. But then reality hit for us once all that went away, kind of, and the fact of, hey, we got to now live with it and learn how to live with it. So for you, I'll go off of it after you. What was kind of whenever reality really hit, what helped you out the most into like just going through every day, just getting through the day?
I would have to say my faith. I was raised with a strong faith. I had a grandmother that made sure I didn't miss church. My mom was highly into a spiritual person, didn't miss time in church. So I would say I relied on my faith. Like you said, the first month we had to give food to people.
Yeah.
This community is God given. I mean, people were here cooking us dinner, mowing whatever they could do to just have a moment to help us. And then you know me, I can set up in that house with the lights off and just listen to music and not go anywhere for the weekend after work. Where Megan's a mover and a shaker at times. So we were learning how to go back out into society and stuff. But I think my faith, my accountability to myself. How am I going to tell you to go to school and play baseball? Tell my daughter to get up and go to school and play tennis. Your sister, people in this community. So I've always, there's nobody that's been harder on baseball players than probably myself that I know. Other than, Mark Calvi held me to a higher thing than I thought I was possible of, and I achieved that. So I kind of do the same with kids, and there is no failure as long as you've tried everything. So accountability. There was many mornings that I had to look at myself in the mirror, comb my hair, and be like, "Get your ass in the car." Long car rides to work, long showers at night. Being upset, but I think that we all have things on this earth we're to do, and I can't ask a damn kid to go out there and do something through their stress level that was no different than my stress level. Two different things, but really the same type of accountability.
Yeah, and for me, I think it was really just like I had to get on like a routine. Just because whenever I'd find myself just being around in a dorm room, whatever, that's whenever it kind of catches up to you. So routine to me was the biggest thing. And a lot of people, I think, like you said, they were bringing us gifts and all that, and because you don't really know what to say to people whenever they go through stuff like that, because you don't fully understand it. So showing the acts of kindness, and I was lucky enough to have some great guys that school, obviously, that just helped me get my mind off things and not be in a dorm room where I can just sit and think about
Well,
that.
your friends are your value, and I think we underestimate our friends until we have a moment,
Yeah,
till you really realize who in your life are true soulmate, your brothers, your sisters, and things like that. That they don't have to be your blood to be, and you learn that in the process of canon, and and death is around the corner every morning and every evening. So it's not like it's gonna it's gonna change those things, but it is something that offered us a chance. And I'll be honest, Cam, we're 3 years into it, and I can be riding up the road and see a sunset, and I'm back to I'm back to the evening after that. So those are kind of some of the things that I think there's never going to stop. But we battle them and we hold them and we do some things like that. So you get through it, and then like I said, I I would like to think that that stops.
yeah,
But my mom's been dead for 12 years. My dad's been dead for 25, and I still have moments of sadness and things like that. And that just process us, makes us stronger and allows us maybe to share the story with somebody else.
you can go ahead and fix your mic. I'll get on to the next segment. Just screw it
You're
on
asking
in.
me to fix this?
Yeah, screw it to the right.
There we
There
go.
you go. That should stay. All right.
Well, you can tell we're not high budget.
Yeah. Um, get on to we're gonna kind of get in. We had our sports segment last week, but get into the transfer portal was as a huge thing in college football occurred this past week or week and a half. Nico from Tennessee, the quarterback, went ahead and did just like they do in the NFL and just sat out, except missed team meetings, missed everything. Asked for I think it was like a 1.5 to $2 million pay raise, and basically wasn't coming back. So obviously, I think I saw from the 2023 recruiting class of quarterbacks, uh, every single one besides one quarterback, I believe, has transferred out from their original college. So obviously, the transfer portal is a huge thing, and it's almost out of control. It feels like now. So kind of asking you, like, how has it got so crazy, and do you think restrictions need to be put onto it, and just what's your all around opinion on the transfer portal?
Well, for me, I'm not a fan of it. I think there is a time a kid has a time. There is a time every kid might want to transfer. There is some things that transpire that I don't know all those stories. I know there is kids that just can't. Maybe you're not there to cut it.
Yeah.
If they recruit 35 kids and they're only traveling 27 and you're the 25th to the 35th and you realize, hey, I'm not good enough to play here. Okay, I get it. You know, if I don't want to name colleges. Let's say a mid major gives you a scholarship,
Yeah.
and you're there for a year and you explode. You know, and you're like, hey, I'm worth more now. I've never had that situation to where I know you're just going to jump, but I did have a situation going into my senior year where I had a chance. A very lucrative college wanted me to come and close for them because their closer had got drafted, and you know, those are the moments where it never even really crossed my mind, and because of loyalty.
Yeah.
I know.
And I feel like that's rare nowadays.
And here I am at 51 years old, and if you'd asked me the greatest things that I did in sports, it was I stayed at Florida International. Here's the difference. Although also though how times have changed. In 1995, I was at Florida International, so it would have been February, and that's back when we started. We used to play February 3rd, 4th, 5th, early January, and we played 12 games. I had a decent fall. Just showed up to college after dad died, weathered that fall, and busted my ass to get back to what I was. And the first 12 games go by, I haven't pitched. And I come in after a 3-game series on a Sunday night, and I call my mom, and I said, I'm coming home. I'm done with this shit. I'm done with this guy. I'm quitting. And my mom's statement, and to this day is probably one of the greatest things she ever said to me. She said, "You can quit, but you have no home here." That wasn't a journey. And if you're old enough now, 21 years old, that you wish to quit and go into the work world, this door's locked. Now, she has a daughter that's scrambling as a senior, a kid calling her, you know, 2,000 miles away from home, upset. That's a tough ass woman.
Yeah.
And it was a lesson that I learned. And I'm going to tell you right now, if I would have quit, the two, besides my dad, Mark Halvey and Danny Price, have been two of the top people in my life. And I'm going to leave a college because they didn't see, I stayed the course. A week or two later, somebody struggling in the pen. I get a save. Next thing you know, I'm the closer. I'm the closer for 2 years. And that allows me to look you in the eye and say, the hell are you doing? You're just going to pack it up and leave because shit didn't go your way tonight, or, these guys chasing money and doing all that. I can't vouch for that. But from what I watched with him, he lost money.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you what the one thing that a lot of people aren't understanding that they're losing,
Respect.
and that's integrity and respect. And how are you going to hold somebody accountable down the road when you couldn't even stay your course?
Yeah.
And that is what it is. And again, that's my opinion. That's not a factual basis, but hell of a role model for a 10-year-old kid. I looked up. Cal Ripken was a role model. That guy came to work. That kind of shit you see now. Maybe he's a great player. Maybe they're all great players, but I don't call that they're not the next role model for the next group.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw. I believe he got 1.75 million from UCLA, and a dude did the numbers, and he's going to be making below $1 million because now California taxes. When he was making 2.5 in Tennessee because there was no taxes with the NIL, and I think probably the craziest thing that I saw was they came out and said is never about the money; it's about the offense.
Right.
And then they go to a UCLA where
struggle to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
And it's every sport, and it's are they is it pay to play? You hear that. Is there marketing geniuses? You hear that. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money involved. I can't fault a 20-year-old kid for chasing $1. I really can't. Does it make me sick to watch how it's going? Yeah. Do I have the answer to it? No. I'm just, like I said, it's my opinion. But if you're asking me the behind the scene part of it, it's sad to watch how, it's a negative thing against, is that what you want to be known for? And if it is, that's fine. That's you, and at the end, that's kind of probably why Cam on Saturdays now, I'm not stressed to watch a college football game.
Yeah.
I used to love sitting and watching Notre Dame.
And that's why we say, like, everybody said, like, I watch college sports for the love of the game. And you can't say that anymore. And I think going off the integrity and loyalty thing, something that a lot of people aren't realizing is Nico's brother just committed to UCLA. Well, he was at Arkansas. But what people aren't realizing is he decommitted from UCLA to go to Arkansas. So he already showed his unloyalty to UCLA and then goes back. So, I mean, just something people may value more than others. But, I mean, I thought that was the biggest move for college football because if Tennessee folds and Josh Heupel says, here's your $4 million, then I think we see holdouts all across college football. And then
yeah, it was great for him. And I like I said, I don't know when it stops or how it stops, but what about the kid that's gutting it out, is a backup middle infielder at some place? And then let's talk about him. Let's talk about the girl at Connecticut that went through 4 years of heartache and injuries and bust her ass and stayed there, knowing she's, if Buchers is there, you're never going to be the face of the crowd. But yet she busted her ass. She had her moment. Talk about those kids too. I think sometimes we set and focus so much on the negative side of it, and then you get caught up in having an opinion. That kid's that kid. He's 21 years old. I don't know him. I don't know how he was raised. He's just the picture he's painting isn't one I want to buy.
Yeah, and a lot, like all schools were basically, whenever I was watching the College Football Insider, was basically like whenever they're getting calls from him or his camp, they're all saying hell no. Even Tulane said,
oh yeah, I saw that, and I saw Oregon's coach was the one that kind of made a call saying, hey, he's fishing, and so kudos to those guys. But in the end of the game, it's also the reason Saban's out.
Yeah,
we're starting to see a new regime.
Villanova's basketball coach. He's out because of that as well.
So we're losing a lot of great people that are mentors, and let's hope the next group is guys like Hypo and those kind of guys that are like when's enough, and let's keep it like so. I'll tell you this: at this year, it isn't going to be hard. I'm not a Tennessee fan,
Yeah.
but I'll be rooting for that
Yeah,
coach.
I'm not a Tennessee
Yeah,
fan, but honestly,
it's going to be hard to watch. See if UCLA cross the end zone. I don't care.
Yeah, and I told my friends, I was like, I'm not a Tennessee guy, but the respect I have for
Yeah,
Tennessee pulling that move because that's their highest prospect I think since Peyton Manning.
somebody had to do it, right?
Somebody had to do it, and that was a big move because apparently they came out and said that it was occurring before the playoffs were about to happen, saying that he was saying a few guys were saying if you don't give us this money, we're going to hold out of the playoff game, and so that is just kind of crazy because I mean, could you imagine being a 21-year-old making 2.5 million
No,
as a quarterback at Tennessee?
it's dangerous. It's dangerous in a college setting.
Yeah,
I don't know what I would have done with. Hell, some weeks my buddy Dave and I had 20 to our name just to get through the weekend. But can you imagine being a college? I can't.
2.5 million, and no taxes were cut
Come
off
on,
then.
man.
But the one thing I wanted to ask was with the transfer portal, they've made it where if you transfer in conference, you have to sit out a year. It used to be where if you transferred, you had to sit out a year no matter what.
That's
I
how
believe.
it was when I played. If you transferred, your coach also could say like, "Hey, I'm denying you anywhere in the state
Yeah,
and in our conference that you couldn't even go to,
Yeah.
and then you could go somewhere else, but you had to sit out a year." So that was a big decision and stuff like that. It's gonna have to somebody's gonna have to come up with a conclusion,
yeah,
or it's like it's a run of the muck, and we all have opinions, and until somebody says, "Hey, man, this is the line we're drawing," where are you at, and what are we doing? And I'm afraid that it's going to have a ripple effect of the smaller schools.
yeah.
How are they going to compete
Well,
when even
yeah.
bigger schools? Like you're playing a team, and I won't say the names, but I know last week there was two colleges playing. One starting, I think 7 or 8 freshmen, and you're sitting there thinking about yourself, they're gonna get this. The kid was dealing, and you're just knowing somebody's out there waiting to just jump that. Are they even? They're the minors. And that's not fair to anybody. It's not fair to and the brotherhood. You're starting to see that being lost and the stuff like that. It's just we're at a time where there is a sad time to it.
Yeah, and obviously John Gruden, you know how he does like those QB camps where he brings all the top prospects and then does the camps. I was watching one with Will Howard, the Ohio State quarterback, and he was underrated throughout, obviously at Kansas State, but I didn't realize. I think his sophomore year, he said they brought in a high prospect that transferred in to take his job, basically, and he had offers, and he said he could have left, but he said that's not who I am, and I feel like we're kind of losing that now. Like you're not really going to see that anymore. And he said if he would have left, he wouldn't have been able to do what he did at Ohio State as he stayed the course, and that made him able to do what he did and go
And he
win a
had it.
national championship.
Yeah, and I hope, and he's probably going to hear his name called this week in the NFL, and he gutted it out, and that's the kind of guy that you can use as a lesson, and then on the good side, and then there's some that is on the bad side.
Yeah, and I feel like you used to hear all the time locker room guy, and like you can't really have a locker room guy if they're only there for a year and then leave.
And you can't trust them. It's hard to trust somebody that kind of here and there, and like it is a difficult time right now, and I'm glad I'm not on a committee making those decisions.
Yeah, and so now we're gonna get into Mark's minute here. If you want to go ahead and move your mic up so people can hear you real good for this.
Okay. Well, let's hope it stays
There
on
you go.
there. Mark's minute. Last week Mark's minute. I kind of chuckled at that. That's a Cam thing, and I had people reach out afterward, and I appreciated that. It was something that I never really thought about, and I didn't put a ton of in depth to it. And I kind of thought this week I was going to do the same thing and just kind of I'm a seat of my pants kind of person and go with whatever my heart says. But I thought this week I wanted to touch on. In April, it's a tough time. It's one of those things where we're talking about grief and little things that nobody knows you're going through. But April's National Donate a Life Month, and I have a coin here. It's in my truck. I put it in my truck the day I got it. I've never taken it out. It's one of those things I have to see. It's donate. It's a Medal of Honor, and it talks about to save a single life is to save an entire world. And I I wanted to say, everybody you hear, donate your organs, do this, put that on your license. And Cannon and I and Kata both sat down one time and we had a discussion on it. And I never enlightened them on anything, but I've had to do it 3 times. 2 of have been successful donors. My mom was successful. My Cannon was successful. My dad was not in his accident. His organs went through so much trauma. They did some stuff. But I would like to explain something. And the day you have to go through that, nobody ever prepared me for that. You're in a room. Obviously, the writing's on the wall at the time that person's not coming back. So you have a decision to make. The people that do the donated life process are angels, and I don't know how they do what they do, and I am thankful for them. But I'll walk you through something real quick. They're going to take you out of the room, and they're going to put you in a small room, and they're going to walk you through the process. You're going to sign papers. You don't know what you're signing at the time, really, because you're probably in shock. They walk you through it gentle. They tell you things, and then you have to go back to the room. And when you're back to that room, you know your time is short, and you think it is. And then I know with Mom, they couldn't find everything, so they got to get everything in line. So you might have to sit there for 6, 8, 10 hours. You might be a lot sooner. But when you say a difficult thing you do in your life, that was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my entire life, no matter what. It is also something that wasn't my thing to do. That was Cannon's decision, and it was an honor for me to finish what he wanted done. And I know that people have reached out to us through the program and told us that they used his organs for this, or they're alive because of this. And I think that's a hero, and I think it is something we all should think about. I can't tell you to do it. I just wanted to make everybody aware that it is a process, and it is gut-wrenching, and it is something that I will carry with me the rest of my life. I had guilt with my mom because I didn't stay probably as long as in my brain I should have. With Cannon, I knew what I needed to do, and I made sure I did it in the right process. But hopefully that little second offers you an enlightenment of it's not exactly what you think, but it's not your trip either. And I stayed the course for Cannon, not for me. And I think that's the process of the donor. And at the end of the day, to be able to give your organs to keep life moving, that's honorable.
Yeah, and obviously, just to go ahead, he's impacting lives still to this day.
Still to this day, we still get notes. Just got one at Christmas.
Yeah. So stuff like that's just amazing, and not gonna lie, big ass coin.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I know there's another person around here. Her and I once in a while text each other. Her son did the same thing, and he's a hero, and the coin. It's one of those things. I look at it every morning, and I know that hey, we're still doing the right shit around here.
Yeah, I will say, like, a lot of times you see on some things that it's not as good as it can be, but that's a legit coin. So they did good with that, because that thing's heavy too. If you put that in your gym shorts, it's weighing them down for sure. But going ahead, obviously, like I said, we're going to be doing a giveaway. So just like the video on YouTube, be a subscriber, and then follow at Beeline Foundation on either Facebook and Instagram, and we'll go ahead and announce the winner for that. But going ahead with closing remarks, I just wanted to go ahead and thank everybody again. Obviously, the support was amazing and far beyond what I thought. I mean, we gained I think it was close to 200 followers just on Instagram alone, a lot on Facebook. People shared it everywhere, and it got out, and it was just amazing to see that, and to see that we still, on his birthday, the past 2 years, have done something for him and have continued to grow his legacy as it continues to grow through the foundation and everything as well. It's nice to see, and just puts a smile on our face instead of going ahead and just mourning it. As it's easy just to sit there and mourn it instead of go ahead and smile. But Cannon would be sitting here and smiling if he'd be seeing all this and all the attention on him like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So those are my closing remarks. I just wanted to go ahead and pass them off to you, and I'll close it out.
Yeah, I mean, I was inspired last week. I'm not gonna lie. I hate this. I'm not a guy with a microphone in my face, but I was inspired by people, and I hope we inspired them. And if you're going through, like we said last week, if you're going through shit, we get it, and we hope you can stay your course, and we pray for you, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. And one thing I just wanted to go off of is, obviously, like we say, everybody's dealing with their own shit. And you know your own shit may be deeper to you than it may be to somebody else. Just because say somebody's going through a breakup and you see that as weak, it doesn't matter because to them that's deep and they cared for that person. So you know whatever it is you're going through, we all understand it and we understand how it does hurt. But just get up and keep on pushing because you don't have to lose somebody to be going through something. You go through something every day, and it's just about how you handle it. And so, other than that, obviously, we're going to continue this. Looking to have every other Sunday for the podcast, so look out for that. We'll obviously keep updating it, but Sunday's kind of been the thing here in the barn. It's kind of like the main day of like when it's all crazy. So it felt like that was fitting to go ahead every other Sunday. Looking to also get guests on, so stay tuned for that. But other than that, live your lion life and be a lion.